I discovered my son-in-law created fake social media profiles to ruin me, stole my identity, and manipulated my family for years. Betrayal, humiliation, and legal threats tore my life apart, but I secretly documented everything. At my father's funeral, the truth exploded. This is my journey through trauma, panic, and recovery. It all started when I saw my own face staring back at me on Facebook, except it wasn't me. The profile had my name, my pictures, my workplace, even my father's old watch in one of the photos. But the posts? They were vile. Racist rants, drunken selfies, even an announcement that I had put my child up for adoption illegally. By the time I found it, hundreds of people, including coworkers and old friends, had already seen it. That's how my son-in-law Mark began destroying my life. And the craziest part? It all came crashing down at what was supposed to be the happiest day of my year, my 10-year anniversary celebration with my wife. A night that should have been about love turned into the first public humiliation of many. I should have noticed the red flags earlier. Mark always carried himself with a smug grin, like he knew something the rest of us didn't. He worked in IT consulting, which I later found out meant he bounced between short contracts and shady side hustles. But he married my daughter 6 years ago, and I wanted to trust him. I wanted to believe he cared about family. That day, the night of the celebration, I remember the smell of fresh bread as we walked into the restaurant. My wife had picked a little Italian place downtown, with red candles on the tables and soft jazz playing overhead. It was exactly 2:30 p.m. when we checked in for the lunch reservation. I looked down at my father's old watch. He left it to me before and I never take it off. It's one of the few things that still makes me feel grounded. Mark showed up late, smelling of cigarette smoke, laughing too loud. "Sorry, traffic," he said, sliding into the seat next to my daughter. He didn't even look sorry. He ordered the most expensive bottle of wine on the menu, like it was nothing. At first, I brushed it off. But halfway through the meal, my phone buzzed with a message from Joshua, my younger brother. "Nick, are you drunk? Posting on Facebook? Call me ASAP." My stomach dropped. I hadn't even logged into Facebook that week. I excused myself, went to the bathroom, and opened the app. And there it was, my face, my name, but not my life. Fake me had posted at 2:14 p.m. just minutes before I sat down at the table. The post claimed I was celebrating my freedom after secretly arranging an illegal adoption. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. My father's watch felt like it was burning my wrist. When I returned to the table, Mark smirked at me across the breadbasket. "You okay, Nick? You look pale." His tone was mocking, and for the first time, I wondered if he already knew. Joshua showed up at the restaurant 30 minutes later. He pulled me outside, away from the family. "Nick, this is bad. People are sharing that post everywhere. Your coworkers, Mom's church group, even the neighborhood page. It looks like you wrote it." "I didn't," I whispered, my throat dry. "I swear to God, I didn't." And then Joshua said something that made my chest tighten. "Someone used pictures only you had, that shot of Dad's watch on the dresser. You never posted that anywhere." That's when I felt it in my gut. This wasn't random. Someone close to me wanted to ruin me. And as I stood there, smelling cigarette smoke on my clothes from hugging Mark hello, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was behind it. But how could I accuse him? He was my son-in-law, my daughter's husband, my wife's new favourite. Everyone at that table adored him. If I said something without proof, I'd look paranoid or worse, guilty. So I stayed silent. I plastered a smile on my face, pretended to laugh at Mark's dumb jokes, and ate bread that suddenly tasted like ash. That night was the first time I didn't sleep. I lay awake replaying every detail, the smirk, the timing, the photo of my father's watch. My chest was tight, my hands tingled, and my mind kept spinning. It was the beginning of insomnia that would follow me for years. And I wish I could say it ended there. That was just the first red flag. After that night, life didn't return to normal. I tried to tell myself it was a one-time thing, maybe some random hiccup, but the pit in my stomach kept growing. Every time I checked my phone, I half expected to see another fake post. And more often than not, I did. The post became more elaborate. Someone who knew me was fabricating whole conversations. Screenshots of messages where I supposedly bragged about stealing money from my company. Photoshop receipts with my name. Even a fake Craigslist ad offering to sell my father's watch. It was sick. I started noticing Mark hovering around whenever I used my phone. "What's got you so glued to the screen, Nick?" he'd ask casually, cigarette dangling from his lips, smoke seeping into his jacket. He'd grin, too wide, too smug. I never answered. By last Christmas, things had escalated to the point that my boss pulled me into HR. "Nicholas, we need to talk about your online presence." That phrase still makes my stomach flip. My boss slid a stack of printed screenshots across the table. The fake posts, the rants, the lies. "This doesn't reflect our company's values, and frankly, it's raising performance concerns." Performance concerns. That was the moment I realized my $3,200 monthly salary, the job that kept the mortgage afloat, was hanging by a thread. I tried to explain. "This isn't me. Someone's impersonating me." But I saw the doubt in their eyes. Once your reputation cracks, people stop believing you. That night, I couldn't face my wife. She kept talking about how wonderful Mark was for fixing her laptop, how he'd helped her daughter, my stepdaughter, with taxes. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her the truth. But every time I opened my mouth, fear clamped down on my throat. What if she didn't believe me either? Joshua was the only one who did. He came over with pizza and beer, trying to cheer me up. "Nick, you're not crazy," he said firmly, setting the box on my kitchen counter. "This is targeted. Someone who knows you is pulling the strings, and who benefits the most if you go down." We didn't have to say the name. We both knew. Mark. But proving it, that was another story. I went to the police, filed reports, showed screenshots, begged them to investigate. But weeks passed, and nothing happened. Then one night, Joshua leaned across my kitchen table, his voice low. "Nick, I think I know why your reports are going nowhere." Turns out, the officer who kept losing my paperwork was our own cousin, Michael. And Michael just happened to be one of Mark's drinking buddies. My stomach dropped when Joshua told me. Betrayal layered on betrayal. My own blood protecting the man trying to destroy me. I stopped sleeping altogether. Night stretched into dawn with me pacing the living room, clutching my father's watch like it was a lifeline. Every time I drifted off, nightmares jolted me awake. In one, I'd be at my daughter's wedding, and Mark would stand up to announce to everyone that I was a fraud. In another, my coworkers threw me out of the office while whispering, "Monster." I started seeing a therapist in January. I remember sitting in that beige office, fluorescent lights humming overhead, the smell of disinfectant burning my nose. "Nicholas," she said gently, "what you're experiencing is trauma. Your nervous system is rewired from constant attacks. No wonder you can't sleep." Hearing that word, the trauma was both validating and terrifying. It meant this wasn't just stress. This was deep. Meanwhile, Mark was thriving. He strutted around family gatherings like a king. He'd make little digs, always in that joking tone. "Hey Nick, posted anything good online lately?" Everyone laughed except me. I wanted to vomit. The final straw came in February. My daughter called me, voice shaking. "Dad, someone messaged me saying you tried to sell me when I was a baby. Is it true?" My chest clenched so hard I couldn't breathe. "No, guys, no. Who told you that?" She whispered. "Uncle Mark showed me the messages. He said he was protecting me." That was the moment I knew. Mark wasn't just trying to humiliate me, he was trying to erase me. To turn my own daughter against me. And still, I had no proof. Only suspicion. Only gut. But gut was enough to keep me awake at night, listening to the ticking of my father's watch like a countdown. Because I knew the explosion was coming. It hit me like a freight train on March 12th at exactly 2:30 p.m. I was going through old family documents in the attic, dust motes swirling in the sunlight, the smell of mildew mixing with the faint aroma of fresh bread from a bakery down the street. That's when I found it, a thick manila envelope labelled Private Nicholas in my mother's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were adoption papers unsigned, forged, and all pointing to one shocking fact. Mark had been manipulating my family to stage an illegal adoption. My own daughter had been at risk. I sank to the floor, clutching my father's watch like a lifeline. My chest felt trapped, my vision blurred. I'd always trusted my family, but these papers proved they had been lying to me for 25 years about my own identity, about my lineage, about what I thought was safe and sacred. I was penniless, heartbroken, and utterly alone. I called Joshua immediately. "Josh, it's worse than I thought. Mark, he's done more than ruin my online life. He's tried to raise my family from me. He's forged adoption papers. He's involved the police." Joshua's voice cracked over the phone. "Nick, I tried to warn you. Michael buried your reports. The cousin who was supposed to protect you. He was protecting Mark instead. This is bigger than just Facebook posts. It wasn't just betrayal, it was systemic. Friends I trusted, neighbours who'd waved blithely, even the church I tended to whisper and judge, all because Mark had carefully crafted a web of lies painting me as a criminal. Every panic attack I'd endured, every sleepless night, every therapist session, it all made sense now. My insomnia wasn't just stress. My trust issues, the nightmares, the constant hum of dread I had been living under, a psychological siege orchestrated by someone I loved. I decided I couldn't face this alone. That night, I called Victor, my oldest and most loyal friend. He'd been with me since college, through every breakup and job loss. "Nick, we'll figure this out. You don't fight this alone," he said. He helped me organise everything, screenshots, documents, emails, even recordings of Mark's casual posts when he thought I wasn't listening. The betrayal cut the deepest at home. When I confronted my wife about the documents, her eyes welled with tears, but not for me. I thought he was helping. I didn't know. I felt a loss I'll never forget. The person that I loved most became my worst nightmare. She too had been manipulated, and my daughter was caught in the middle. I slept on the couch that night, wrapped in a blanket that still smelled faintly of cigarette smoke from Mark's jacket he had draped over it earlier. The social consequences were immediate. My neighbours stared as I walked past, whispers followed me into stores. I tried to explain, to show proof, but the fake social media profile had gone viral. My coworkers avoided me, citing HR's concerns. My boss whispered, "We're watching your performance, Nicholas. $3,200 a month felt like a cruel joke. It was survival, not a living." And psychologically, I was unravelling. Panic attacks hit without warning, leaving me gasping in the kitchen, gripping the counter, my father's watch digging into my wrist. Nightmares replayed my humiliation endlessly. Therapy sessions became the only anchor. My therapist helped me name what I was feeling: betrayal trauma, chronic insomnia, hypervigilance, trust erosion. She helped me practice grounding techniques, but the damage Mark inflicted was deep and layered. Then the final shocking revelation. Mark had not acted alone. Michael, my cousin, and two of Mark's friends had actively buried reports and manipulated evidence. They had created a network of deceit that ensured no one outside the family would believe me. I felt like Atlas, carrying the weight of decades of lies. But there was one sliver of control left. I had been documenting everything secretly. Every post, every text, every suspicious emailed, everything. Evidence that would shock authorities, that could finally expose the scale of his betrayal. I just had to survive long enough to bring it into the light. That evening, I looked at my father's watch, the hands frozen at 2:30 p.m, the same time everything began to unravel in the attic. I whispered to myself, "I will get through this. I have to, for me, for her, for my daughter." And for the first time in months, I allowed myself to hope. It was May 18, exactly 2:30 p.m, when I decided I could no longer stay silent. The funeral of my father, a man whose watch I still wore, whose memory had anchored me through decades of chaos, was packed. The church smelled faintly of lilies and old wood, and the air was thick with whispered condolences and the low hum of grief. I could feel every eye on me as I walked in, clutching the manila envelope that had exposed Mark's lies. My wife and daughter sat to my left, their faces pale. Mark was there too, pretending to be the grieving husband, the perfect son-in-law. He had his cigarette tucked discreetly in his jacket pocket, the faint scent lingering as he leaned close to whisper to my daughter. I felt bile rise in my throat, my chest tight. I had rehearsed this moment for weeks, every word, every gesture, every flash of evidence I would reveal. When the pastor finished speaking, I stood. Silence fell like a suffocating blanket. I held up the envelope. "This isn't about mourning my father anymore," I said, voice shaking but audible. "It's about truth, about betrayal, about how someone I trusted, someone I considered family, has spent years destroying me." Whispers ricocheted through the church. Mark's smug grin faltered. He leaned forward, whispering, "Nick, don't," but I ignored him. "I have evidence," I continued, handing copies of the adoption papers, the screenshots, the emails to the nearest family members and clergy. Mark forged documents. He manipulated my family, manipulated the police. My own cousin buried my reports, all to make me look like a criminal, and it didn't stop there. The gasps were instantaneous. My wife's hand flew to her mouth. My daughter's eyes widened in disbelief. Even the pastor looked stunned, his sermon forgotten. "You lied to me," I shouted, voice cracking, pointing directly at Mark. "He turned my daughter against me, humiliated me in front of friends, coworkers, even strangers. You stole my identity, my reputation, and my peace of mind." Mark's face paled. He tried to speak, but the room erupted with voices. Cousins argued, siblings whispered angrily, and aunts and uncles gestured wildly at each other. I could see people shaking their heads, pointing, and in the chaos, I realized how many had suspected something was off all along. Then the ultimate twist hit. I revealed that I'd been documenting everything. I didn't just keep quiet, I collected proof, and now it's all here for authorities to see. Every lie, every manipulation, every betrayal. "You won't get away with this, Mark." Mark's shoulders slumped. He finally stammered, "Nicholas, you don't understand it," but no one listened. The whispers turned to angry voices. Some guests shouted, some cried. My wife turned to me, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know," she sobbed. "I thought he was helping." I swallowed hard, the panic pressing on my chest like a vice. I could feel my pulse racing, my hand shaking violently. The trauma, the years of betrayal, the sleepless nights, all of it was exploding in this room. And yet, standing there, I felt a strange clarity. Joshua appeared beside me, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "You're not alone, Nick," he whispered. His presence grounded me amidst the chaos, reminding me that even if the world had turned against me, I still had someone I could trust. The fallout was immediate. Some family members walked out in anger. Others whispered their disgust. Mark was asked to leave, his face red with humiliation, cigarette smoke clinging faintly to his jacket as he exited. And in that moment, I realized something vital. I had reclaimed my voice, my story, and my truth. Even with everyone staring, I felt an unfamiliar sense of empowerment. For the first time in months, I wasn't hiding. I wasn't broken. I was standing tall, anchored by the memory of my father's watch on my wrist, and the unwavering loyalty of my brother and best friend. That day, the funeral became more than mourning, it became justice, confrontation, and revelation. Every whisper, every tear, every shocked expression reminded me that lies, no matter how deeply buried, can't survive the truth forever. And even though the night after, I lay awake again, gripping the watch, feeling the tremors of panic and insomnia, I knew something had shifted. The first steps toward reclaiming my life had been taken. After the funeral, life didn't slow down, it slammed me into a new kind of chaos. Word of the confrontation spread like wildfire. Neighbors whispered as I walked past. My coworkers avoided eye contact. Even people I thought I could trust, friends from church and old college acquaintances, treated me like I was radioactive. The fake person hadn't vanished overnight, and Mark's manipulation had left lingering shadows. I remember walking into my office the Monday after the funeral. My heart was pounding, hands sweaty. The HR manager called me into her office, expression unreadable. "Nicholas, there have been complaints about your behavior. People are concerned about aggression. We need to discuss your position." My $3,200 monthly salary suddenly felt like a ticket to nowhere. I wanted to scream, to explain, but the words caught in my throat. I left work early, the smell of cigarette smoke clinging to my coat from Mark's antics still haunting me. I went straight to therapy. Dr. Patel, my therapist, listened as I collapsed into the chair, shaking. "I can't sleep. I can't trust anyone. My life is ruined, I confess." She nodded, scribbling notes. "Nicholas, the trauma you're experiencing is intense. Your nervous system has been in survival mode for months. Panic attacks, nightmares, hypervigilance, they're all expected responses. We'll work on coping strategies, but this will take time." Time. I didn't have time. Every night, I lay in bed clutching my father's watch, staring at the ceiling. My mind raced with replayed scenes of Mark's smirk, the lies, the public humiliation. The panic attacks came without warning, a car horn outside my window, the wrong name in a text, the smell of smoke on someone's jacket. My insomnia became chronic, even daylight hours felt oppressive. Social isolation wrapped around me like a vice. I stopped attending family gatherings. My daughter avoided my calls, confused and manipulated by Mark's lies. Friends tried to reach out, but the shame I carried made me push them away. Public perception had turned against me. People whispered, stared, and some even blocked me online after seeing the fake profiles. I was trapped in a bubble of fear and despair. Even simple routines became impossible. I couldn't eat without anxiety, couldn't drive without a creeping sense of danger. Every dollar mattered, and my $3,200 monthly salary now seemed paltry against the emotional cost of survival. Therapy sessions became lifelines, where I practiced grounding techniques, journaling, and slowly unpacking the layers of betrayal. Yet every night I returned home to silence, to a home that felt too big, too empty, and too contaminated by memories of Mark's deception. Joshua and Victor remain my anchors. Joshua came over every Wednesday without fail, helping me sort through evidence, encouraging me to document everything. Victor pushed me to write, record, even take photos of moments that made me feel alive. Nicholas, don't let them erase you, he said one evening, lighting a candle in my dark apartment. I clutched my father's watch, tears streaming, thinking about the years of lies and how close I'd been to losing everything. Then came the legal letters. Mark's manipulations had triggered threats of arrest because of the fabricated adoption claims. I spent nights hunched over my laptop, printing emails, screenshots, and recordings, my secret archive now my shield. I barely ate, barely slept, my body trembling from exhaustion. My trauma had become physical, nightmares blurred with reality. By late June, I was a shadow of the man who had walked into that restaurant 6 months earlier. I had lost confidence, lost trust, lost faith in family and community. Panic attacks were daily. Trust issues poisoned even casual conversations. Social isolation gnawed at me. And yet, deep inside, a tiny ember of resilience flickered. Because even at rock bottom, I knew this wasn't the end. I had survived years of lies, manipulation, and public humiliation. I had proof. I had Joshua and Victor. And somewhere beneath the panic and insomnia, beneath the betrayal and shattered relationships, I still had me. The road to recovery would be brutal, terrifying, and painstaking, but I would walk it. And I would reclaim the life that Mark tried to destroy. Recovery didn't happen overnight. It started with small, deliberate steps. The first was leaving my apartment every morning, even if only to walk to the corner bakery and breathe in the smell of fresh bread. I'd press my father's watch to my chest, feeling the weight of time and legacy, a tether to a version of myself untouched by betrayal. Joshua came along sometimes, quietly letting me talk or just walk in silence. Therapy remained central. Dr. Patel introduced me to expressive art therapy. At first, I laughed at me painting, but it became the first safe outlet for emotions I couldn't verbalize. I started sketching abstract representations of my panic, my nightmares, the smoke of Mark's cigarettes hovering in distorted shapes. Colors became my words, brushstrokes my sentences. Every session left me physically and emotionally drained, but gradually I began to feel relief, clarity, and control. Victor suggested that I share my art online anonymously at first. Let people see what you've been through without the risk of judgment, he said. Hesitant, I posted one piece, a twisted clock with 2:30 frozen on its face, smoke curling around the numbers. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from strangers who had experienced identity theft, betrayal, or trauma. For the first time in months, I felt seen, validated, and less alone. I also began documenting my recovery, not just the trauma. I wrote daily journal entries, capturing progress, setbacks, and breakthroughs. I included details about my insomnia, panic attacks, therapy exercises, and moments of courage. Revisiting the manila envelope, I made copies, filed them meticulously, and finally felt like the evidence of my torment had a purpose beyond revenge. Financially, I stabilized. With the support of Joshua and Victor, I filed legal claims against Mark, leveraging the documentation I had secretly maintained for months. My $3,200 monthly salary became a stepping stone, no longer a trap. I negotiated new work arrangements that accommodated therapy and self-care. Slowly, the layers of public humiliation were peeled away by facts and proof, replacing whispers with understanding. I rebuilt relationships cautiously. My daughter, after months of therapy and guided conversations, began to reconnect. Our conversations were slow at first. She asked, "Dad, did you really almost lose everything because of him?" My voice shook as I nodded. "Yes, but we're fixing it, together." My wife remained distant at first, grappling with her own guilt. But she started attending counselling alongside me. We rebuilt, step by step, acknowledging that trust isn't automatic, it's earned through transparency and time. Creatively, I flourished. I started an art show titled 2:30 p.m., dedicated to the moment everything changed. The exhibit featured paintings, sculptures, and interactive installations exploring identity, trust, and betrayal. The climax of the exhibit was a life-size sculpture of my father's watch suspended in glass, smoke swirling around it, a tribute to both loss and resilience. The opening night, I stood in front of strangers, friends, and even a few cautious family members. The applause wasn't just for art, it was for survival, courage, and reclaiming a stolen life. Psychologically, I felt rebirth. Panic attacks became less frequent, nightmares less vivid. My insomnia eased with meditation, consistent sleep hygiene, and creative expression. I journaled nightly, acknowledging triggers but also victories, seeing how my nervous system gradually returned to safety. Legally, Mark was exposed. Authorities had been shocked by the volume and precision of evidence I presented. The fraudulent adoption scheme, forged documents, and harassment became undeniable. The police, now without obstruction from Michael, pursued charges. Justice didn't erase the trauma, but it reinforced the truth. My story mattered. Looking back, I see the difference between then and now. The person I was at 2:30 p.m. on that fateful March day, terrified, betrayed, sleepless, exists only in memory. Today, I am Nicholas. Survivor, artist, brother, father, and friend. I reclaimed my identity not by erasing the past, but by transforming it into creation. I still wear my father's watch, and each tick reminds me of time survived, lessons learned, and a life rebuilt from the wreckage of betrayal. The journey wasn't painless, but it was mine, and for the first time in years, I feel whole. I am no longer defined by lies, manipulation, or the worst moments of my life. I am defined by truth, resilience, and the art I've created from every